market. So this will be purely property market related stuff. So maybe take a pina colada, relax, and let's see what happened in 2021. So 2020. So 2020 started off just like any other year. Then we had our beloved, word that we may not say, disease that came in, and lots of things occurred around that time. A lot of people were fearful of property in the second quarter of this year. From about March to end of financial year, people were like, property prices are going to fall. The sort of doomsday is out there. People going into lockdown, chaos, not knowing what's going on. Fortunately, I saw the opportunity that was out there before this occurred. A lot of people I'd seen had gone out there and made a lot of deals, picked up a lot of bargains at that period of time. But ultimately, they went on to print a lot of money. So there's been over $1 trillion worth of money printed in 2020. Interest rates have gone down to 0.1%, not even 0.25%. They've gone down to almost 0% interest rates at the RBA, which is tremendous news. And this has flowed on to all of the property markets around Australia. So if we look at state by state, a lot of people thinking Melbourne's going to fall in prices. Melbourne, in a lot of areas, people that I know down there, people have been talking about, what's happening in the Melbourne market. Melbourne, from what I understand, has gone up in a lot of places, like 100,000 here, 100,000 there, and the market's pretty hot there still. And it's like, well, why is that market so hot? It all comes down to the money supply and easy money out there and cheap money for everybody in the marketplace. The cool thing about Melbourne people is a lot of people had an awakening in 2020, and they're like, I don't want this as my life. I want to take more control over my life. And a lot of cool people in Melbourne do lots of cool things. So shout out to everyone in Melbourne. In Sydney, the property markets in Sydney, from what I'm seeing on the ground, is sort of twofold. There's some markets that are a little bit suppressed, which is cool for buying properties cheap. Some markets are really booming. If we look at the Central Coast, for example, everything's gone up by 100 grand, 150 grand, and just continues to rise. A lot of areas in Sydney, for example, the acreage market gone up a lot. The average family and the first homeowner markets have gone up a lot. In some of those areas where you've got the new estates and all the first homeowner grants and the stimulus packages like the 25 homeowner booster pack, those areas have gone up 100 grand, 150, 200 grand. So going back about 3 years ago, we did all those home and land where we bought the land cheap, built the homes cheap, and investors made a lot of money. Some of those people have made even more money this year as those properties have gone up another 200-300 grand. So really cool. Some areas that have been hit have been the higher end properties and some of the real bottom end properties. And that leaves an opportunity for those cheaper end. In the second half of 2020, been able to pick up some properties for as cheap as 260, 270,000 around Sydney, and those properties are still around at the moment. Things that were selling for sort of 350, 400 beforehand, going back 3 years ago, you can still get for 300. So there's good opportunities in the market. On multiple occasions this year, for some of our investors, we've been able to pick up properties that have revalued within a week of buying them, a month of buying them. They've bought for 290, revalued for 410. So it's like a 25-30% below market value that we picked them up for straight away. The banks are happy. They're the ones doing the valuations. It's not me coming up with the values, it's the actual banks. We bought inner city properties that's selling for like 500,000, 530,000, which revalued for 700,000. So it's like, 20%, 30% growth there straight away. So there has been a lot of those opportunities. In 2021, I think there's still going to be a lot of opportunities out there. Obviously, as the finance market and the APRA changes get removed from the market and cheap, easy credit just flows around everywhere in the marketplace, that's going to be sort of pouring jet fuel on the already excited property market. A lot of people out there aren't getting yields. The stock market isn't giving yields. Shares aren't giving yields. A lot of things aren't giving returns like they used to, and property is giving a good solid cash flow return. And with cheap money, easy money, everyone can afford it. So that's why I'm very bullish on the markets. I've been negative on the markets for the last 3 years. Very, very bullish as of probably about mid-2019, and it's getting more and more stronger from my bullish sentiment. So 2021 in Sydney market, I think it's going to be really, really awesome. If we look along New South Wales coastline and a lot of large regional cities, those areas have also experienced some large growth this year. People moving, into more regional areas. They realise that they don't have to be in a city for work. and people just being able to see very cheap opportunities. You used to be able to buy houses in areas of New South Wales for under 100 grand, 150 grand, under 200. Now they're becoming a thing of the past. So just recently we picked up some properties for our investors, which are very close to Sydney for 150 grand, 140 grand. Those things are all now 300 grand. So have seen some really good growth in those markets, and I think that trend will continue to grow on the outer parts of the capital cities. As we head more north, we go to Queensland. That has been a very fun market. We'll look at the Gold Coast, anywhere from Tweed Heads all the way up to the top of the Sunshine Coast. That market has seen massive growth. Some of those properties have gone up for double this year. Looking at growth, I think most of the Gold Coast has seen sort of 50 to 100 grand growth on those properties. Areas of Brisbane are starting to heat up. Brisbane has not been as hot as Sunshine Coast or the Gold Coast. I think the outer areas of Brisbane have been much hotter. But I think that we're starting to see a lot of growth. So there is opportunity in and around Brisbane. It was only probably about 4 weeks ago, I'm assuming the person will be watching this video. He bought a $245,000 unit, which is 5 kilometres from Brisbane CBD, revalued it straight away for 350 grand. So there's still good bargains. Now there's nothing under 350 there. So we're starting to see areas like Brisbane pop and explode and go up in value. So that's really cool to see. There's been some large sort of shifts in some of the mining activity around the country, and Queensland is renowned for having some large mining areas. Those markets that are heavily populated for mining, a lot of people said coal prices won't do much because of China, etc. A part of our recovery, we've got stuff in the ground, commodities in the ground that we need to get out. We are seeing a lot of prices rise when it comes to the commodity prices. So looking at recovering of those markets, some areas will pick it up in late 2019 for like 2-bedroom townhouses in some towns for 60 grand, 55 grand. Those things are all now $130,000, $150,000. So there's been some great growth in some of those large mining areas that have been hit many years ago. And what I'm talking about is large regional hubs with like 10, 20, 30,000 people in them. These things were hit. They used to sell for 400, be able to pick them up for 50 or 60 grand. Still opportunities in those areas. I think in 2021 we're going to see a lot of growth in those markets. So very bullish on all of Queensland basically. If we look at Northern Territory, it's not a market that I'm too exposed to. I'm hearing good things up there. If we look over in Perth, a lot of growth has happened in Perth this year. A lot of activity. We're picking up properties for 50 grand last year in Perth and other areas of Western Australia, which are all now selling for $120,000, $140,000. Properties that were in the city of Perth that we've been able to pick up in the city of Perth in 2020. Lots of properties for about 100 to 150,000. They're all selling for 200, 220,000 now. So have seen a lot of growth in Perth this year. A lot of revaluations happening. Properties that we're picking up for 130, revaluing for 200 straight away. 150, revaluing for 200, 250 straight away. So a lot of opportunity over in Perth. In 2021, I'm actually putting a Blink office over in Perth. So if you've got property management, properties that you need managed, we are heading over to Perth to look after our investors' portfolios in Perth. What are my thoughts on Perth for 2021? I think a lot of growth, a lot of things happening in the resource sector, a lot of commodity prices rising, once again, like I talked about in Queensland. So I think we're going to see a lot of activity happening over in Perth. If we look over in Adelaide, some things are starting to happen. Adelaide has been a soft market for quite a while now, but things are starting to recover there. Some of the properties that we're picking up going back 2-3 years ago had been quite stagnant, picking up in the bottom of the market. 100, 110, 120 grand for some properties. Those things are up around the 180, 200 grand price. So they've been great. As for purchasing there, we're not very active and aggressive there at the moment. As for moving forward in 2021, I'm going to sit on the sidelines there, and that's nothing to do with Adelaide. I just think that there's other markets that are very, very active and a lot of opportunities that are out there. If we look at Tasmania, I'm not the biggest fan of Tasmania. It's not a part of the mainland. There was a lot of hype going back a couple of years ago. Everyone's jumping on board. There's some stats, some articles and all that sort of stuff. But as we all know, I'm a contrarian investor and I like buying things when the markets have been hit. So I'm picking the eyes out of the markets. There's a lot of opportunities that are still out there. I think that for me personally, I haven't bought in Tasmania. I'm not active in Tasmania and it's not somewhere that I'm going in 2021. And for our friends over in Canberra, I don't touch that market. It's not a market that I like playing into. One thing is for sure though, I am going to be in the Canberra market with property management with Blink Property. We are going national in 2021. So that's just my thoughts on what I'm seeing out in the market, some of the growth that's happened in the market in 2020. As for the market as a whole, I think we're going to see all of these markets go up quite significantly because interest rates are so low. A lot of people are getting rates at 2.5%, 3%. It's so cheap to get money. If you look at the cost of money, if you were to earn $100,000, and let's assume that you just save all of it and you have to pay 30% tax on that, that means you're earning 100 grand, paying 30 grand tax, and with the other $70,000, you've got that money to go and invest or pay down your mortgage. Alternatively, if you went and borrowed $100,000, all you have to pay at the moment is 2 or 3% interest rate. For 10 years, that still wouldn't even cost what it would pay to pay taxes. So it's not even worth earning money anymore. It's better off to go borrow money and be able to service the cash flow, service the debt with cash flow coming through. So yeah, very, very exciting things happening to our monetary policies around the world. Specifically in Australia, I think that we're primed for a massive, massive boom. I'm very, very bullish on the property market, as I have been for the last 12, 18 months, since about mid-2019, when we started to see the currency market implode and, needing to have stimulus packages going into the marketplace, which is really exciting time. I think we're very early stages of a massive boom. We're going to see a massive boom all across Australia. And, I'll keep reporting on this over the course of 2021. Thanks a lot for watching in. Thanks a lot for having me as a part of your home. And I hope you have a great New Year's and look forward to hearing your stories about you kicking ass in 2021.